Everybody, it's 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock up there. Something going on tonight. So welcome to the public forum for this evening. I'll just do a couple of quick announcements before we kick off. So I ask that you put your phones on silent, please, or switch them off. The public forum is being live streamed via Council's website, and a person's image and/or voice may be broadcast. Attendance at public forum is taken as consent by a person to have their image and/or voice being live streamed. If any person attending the public forum does not agree to being live streamed, they can choose to leave. Members of the public speaking at the public forum are reminded that their address is not to include any comments or information that may present a legal risk, including defamatory comments or the disclosure of personal information. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending the public forum. All liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. The recording of the public forum will be published on Council's website and retained as a council record in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. So I'll just add to that, any defamatory comments tonight about any councillors or staff, I'll stop you and you'll be finished. Okay, make that clear. You have 3 minutes. At 2.5 minutes, you get one ding. 3 minutes at the end. 3 minutes, get double ding. Okay, so thank you very much. We have 5 speakers tonight.
We need to close
Declaration one. And that first.
You have to make that
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry, Jane's just reminded me that she has a declaration of interest for some of the items being discussed tonight. So I shall read it out to you. So it's from General Manager Declaration of Pecuniary Interest Form from Jane Redden, number 1, regarding item 3, Community Economic Development, draft section 7.11 contribution plan. Number 2, item 4, notice of motion about Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. And number 3, item 3 and item 4, questions with notice, Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. The GM has previously declared the pecuniary interest in these matters. And the General Manager will leave the room for both the public forum and council meeting for these items. Okay, so we'll get back on track. As I said, we have 5 speakers. I've lost my pen and paper, and I know the first one is Mrs. Hartley. So, Beryl, would you like to come forward? Beryl Hartley would like to speak on item number 5 of the Community and Economic Development Report, being request for financial assistance for the Narrabeen Gliding Club. Thank you, Beryl.
Thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak to you. Many of the councillors here will be aware of my role with gliding at Narrabeen. So the gliders have been coming here since 1947 and a full-time operation since 1974. Right? And we're still here and flying around. But I'd like to speak to you tonight about where we find ourselves just at this moment. The issue that we have presently is that the expensive part of running our gliding operation is our tow plane. Once you put a motor in something, it starts to cost money. And so 80% of the tow aircraft in Australia are Piper Pawnees. What has happened, and this is international, just not affecting Australia, is that the Pawnee is unsold by Piper, company in America. They, many years ago, sold the rights for production to that to Argentina. Right. The Argentinians have been building their version of the Pawnee for a number of years, and they have had a lot of problems. So they put out an AD, which is an advice notice for aircraft, and they grounded all of the Pawnees in the world until a certain amount of work was done, right, to check them. They had no plan for that. Our Civil Aviation Safety Authority, on behalf of the gliders, struggled with that, tried to deal with the Argentinians. And in the meantime, all the gliding operations that were operating these codes were just sitting on the ground waiting for something to happen. We were very fortunate in Australia that within the gliding movement, we had some boys who worked for the military in Australia. They had the expertise to put together a plan. They worked with CASA and put that plan in place, and that plan has been picked up worldwide. But what it has meant is that there's a lot of work and a lot of expense now to get that fleet back into the air. Our tow plane did not fly last year, and we had to face what we could do going forwards with that. What we decided to do is that we would bid for no big events. We would try to maintain our operation by hiring another aircraft to fill that gap. That then made it possible to operate, but not really financially viable. We were hoping that we would just float through the season while all this was being sorted out, and then we would be back in business again. Sadly, it didn't quite happen like that. What did happen is that we had a busier season than you could ever imagine, because the other clubs were all suffering from this, and they all started to flood into Narromine. The Gliding Australia group came to us and asked us to run competitions, even though we had planned not to do so.
Sorry.
We did the best that we could. Am I finished?
You're finished. Sorry, Beryl.
Okay.
Hey, any quick questions?
Some extra time.
No, not tonight. We've got too full of schedule cancels.
I'll ask the question though. Getting this waiver, will that mean you'll be able to continue to glide?
We have 7 events that's offered to us this year.
Yeah,
We are only seeking assistance until October, when we are back full-time into operation. Happy to pay out $2,000 a month to council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other quick questions for Beryl? Thank you very much, Beryl.
Thank you.
Okay, second speaker tonight is Linda Jux, who would like to speak on item number 4 of the notices of motion, the Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, everybody. I find it interesting that the wind farm has been supported by council without anyone knowing at that time what was in the EIS. I also find it very interesting that the EIS is very vague. So I'm asking and begging council on the behalf of all the residents of Narromine to look at this wind farm proposal before the 19th of May, because that is a deadline, the deadline whereby this council, everybody in this room, has an opportunity to put questions to the Department of Planning, and after that you don't have a lot of opportunity to ask questions. Firstly, trees at Tinta Road. Everybody knows what happened at Maroldery Dunedoo. You all know what happened with the wildlife. I'm sure you've seen the photos. If anyone goes down to Tinta Road, that is right in the project of all those trees being demolished. Bad. Hundreds and hundreds and thousands of trees. It's not state forest. As the owner will tell you that the forest is on the edge. Well, those trees are a corridor to the forest. That's how birds, wildlife, reptiles get from that point to that point. So first of all, you look when you go down that road, there is hundreds and hundreds of acres vacant next to it, yet they're going to go in and destroy thousands of trees. You think Maroldery Road was unpretty? Wait till this happens in our community. And everybody in this room needs to go for a drive and see what's going to happen, because everybody in this room has an opportunity to go to the Department of Planning before the 19th and state their cause. Okay, because it's a corridor. Secondly, waste management on completion. Who's responsible for that? Does anyone in this room know? I know who's responsible for it. Who do you think? At the moment, it states ASIONA. Doesn't say the landholder. It says they're in conversations with the landholder. But at the end of the day, ASIONA is responsible for the removal. Who's going to pay for that? I've still got emails there where it's in question. So I ask councillors to look at decommissioning, because in 30 years' time or 15 years' time or 20 years' time, you might not have an opportunity to ask that question for our children. Helicopter. You need to have specialised helicopter people to go in there with fire. They need specialised training. They need specialised helicopters. Road repairs. Oh, by the way, council has not signed any contract with ASIONA. People in this room, councillors, that think that there's been signed contracts with ASIONA, I've got emails today where there's no signed contracts with Acciona. It's all informal chit chat with Acciona and executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions, quick questions of Linda, please? No? Thank you, Linda. Okay, our third speaker this evening is Grace Walker, who would like to speak on item number 4 of the notices of motion report, being Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. Thank you, Grace.
Hello everyone, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Aviation is a part of Narramon's identity, so much so that on our logo we have an airport. Narromine is a nationally and internationally recognised aviation hub, particularly for gliding. Gliding hub here hosted the World Gliding Championships in 2023, continues to attract competitions, training camps and visiting pilots. Around 90% of our aviation here is recreational, delivering ongoing economic and community benefit. This proposed wind farm, its location, is 3 kilometres from town. This introduces serious and unacceptable risks to aircraft operations. Aircraft begin descend and preparing to land within a 10 nautical mile radius of the airfield, which is 18 kilometres from the aerodrome. This places the wind turbines directly within critical phases of flight. The development includes 38 turbines reaching 890 feet. A standard circuit height is 1,000 feet. This places these structures 110 feet below active flight paths and close to the aerodrome. Wind turbines also generate wake turbulence. The National Airport Safeguarding Framework recommends the separation of 16 rotor diameters. Based on proposed range size, 80 to 90 metres, that equates to 3 kilometres of affected airspace with wake turbulence, which is in the vicinity of the aerodrome. For pilots, especially gliders, turbulence can result in loss of lift, sudden altitude loss, unmanned rolls and loss of control. These are critical safety risks. The proposal reduces usable airspace, increases pilot workload, limits safe landing options, and reduces safety margins, particularly during takeoff and landing, the highest risks phase of the flight. The likely outcome is operational restrictions, loss of events, fewer visiting pilots, and economic impact on the community. Gliding has operated in Narromine for over 75 years. It is part of the town's identity and depends on safe, open airspace. This proposal will reduce that. The proposal introduces ongoing, unmitigated aviation risks and threatens that future for gliding and recreational aviation. I urge Council to support the motion to prepare a submission reflecting the community's concerns, citing aviation risks and the impact on aviation. Gliding will be affected and may no longer be financially viable if this proposal goes ahead in its current form.
Thank you, Grace. Any quick questions of Grace? Councillor Davies.
Grace, have you prepared a submission to the Department of Planning on that subject?
Yes, I have.
Have you forwarded that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thanks. Well done.
Any other questions? Yeah, the clapping's lovely, but can we hold the clap to the end, please? Councillor Howe.
What percentage of the Shire would be restricted if the wind turbines went in?
Which means percentage of the Shire.
Well, where you couldn't fly, you know, like.
The whole southeast area.
So,
So
that's
from the Dubbo Highway to the east of Tomlingley Road, you couldn't fly any of that area, which is a quarter of the space, which is where gliders come in. So they do a lot of their flying to that area and use that area as a safe area to come back into. The wind also is 33% of our winds for 5 months of the year come from that southeast direction. So the wake turbulence will also spread through town and impact further operations further to the north as well. So gliding will be severely impacted by this in its current position.
yeah.
Thank you, Grace. One more quick question before we move on, please. Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, our fourth speaker this afternoon is Gay Wilson, who would like to speak on item number 4 of the notices of motion report, being Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. Thank you, Gay.
Good evening and thank you once again for allowing me to speak, not on toilets this time. However, this ASON company, you do realise it's a staged company. How much of the money stays in this country for a start? All right, ASEAN has to be paid. It's a global provider of sustainable solutions in transport, infrastructure, renewable energy and water. It entered Australia's renewable energy market in 2002, which is about the same time you people had a briefing, I believe. Wallaby Creek Wind Farm proposed on 9th of March 22, so that's about right. Asonia works closely with landowners, neighbours and the community, and I stress community, to deliver integrated solutions. When was the community consultation, etc.? This company says they do decommissioning too, by the way, but not too truthful, I don't think. We often get told what they like to tell us, but not what we really need to know. These wind farms put a light on the landscape, not only for wildlife, visual, road transports and all those sort of types of things. And they can be there, as Linda said, for 20 to 30 years before decommissioning is required. They say they do that, but I don't think so. I think you'll find that the landholder will be the bunny. However, and another thing I want to bring up is these wind turbines can leak oil quite substantially. Now, if we have a big windstorm, lightning, or a small mini tornado or something of that kind, can you imagine what the fire hazard would be? I'd hate to think. As for clearing the land, like Linda was talking about, the corridors and everything else, if you and I wanted to do that, I wonder how we'd get on. Everybody needs permission. I wonder. Double standards, when I'm thinking. The wind farm between Wellington and Mudgee, have you ever seen it? It's really a sight to behold. They are enormous, and the blight on the landscape is astonishing. And many of these, sorry, I lost my place. And by the way, they say clean, that renewable energy is clean energy. What a lot of bunkum. It's made from fossil fuels and all that sort of thing. And that is why, why we have such expensive electricity in this country. Especially when renewables are so wonderful. As you might gather, I'm not very much in favour of wind farms or solar farms, or definitely not batteries.
Time's up, sorry, Gay. Thank you, Gay. Any questions of Gay, please? Big questions, anybody, any council got a question? Gay? No. Thank you, Gay. Thank you. Okay, our first speaker is Chris Kelly, who would like to speak on item number 4 of the notices of motions report regarding Wallaby Creek Wind Farm. Thank you, Chris.
First, people, I've been to all the forums on this. I've listened to some heartrending stories. There is no accountability with the firms putting these renewables in. They seem to disappear. They're foreign companies. They change hands. They can't be held accountable. So bear that in mind with what I'm going to say. Right, waste during construction. There is currently no waste management program during construction. The waste and construction materials will go to Narromine, Trenny, Dubbo, Wellington, as per the EIS. Waste includes plastic, wooden, pallets, cardboard, which carry fire ants, by the way, excess construction material, including electrical cabling, metals, waste being general solid waste and hazardous chemicals, which cannot be safely recycled. Where are you going to recycle them? What are you going to do with them? So firstly, work out what you're going to do with them before the 19th of May. Before this submission goes in, water. The EIS states that water for construction of the wind farm, being next year, will come from on-site dams, bores and areas outside the project. Bill spoke on TV last week via Channel 7, am I right, Bill? and stated that water and sewage in Narromine is at a maximum capacity. So where are you getting the water from? Where's it going to come from? What's going to happen with the sewage? Well, council, and I asked council to submit questions to the Department of Planning portal prior to the 19th to ensure that no contaminated and where any water is to be outsourced in Narromine gets into our bores or our water system, if you've got to bring it in. Why have Narromine, just why are you wanting this? I can't understand it. Have any of you been to the forums and listened to the heartrending stories that have happened? You've already heard the gliding will have to go. Do you want nothing in this town? I spoke about a museum last time we were on the thing. You didn't want a museum. We've got nothing here. And by the way you're going, we're not going to have anything. For God's sake, start to think about this area. And that's all I'm saying. Bye.
Thank you, Chris. Any quick questions for Chris?
Any questions?
Any questions I'm asking for you? Any questions for Chris?
I thought you were actually a volunteer at our
Good question,
museum.
Liz.
I am.
We have a museum.
All right, let's,
I know we had one museum.
all right.
Any other question
Okay,
asked?
yeah.
Oh, he asked me a
No,
question.
yeah, we're not having that discussion now, sorry. Okay,
Right.
thank you for the public forum. We're now going to stop and pause. The council meeting will commence at 5:30 sharp.